Bonjour, Helene. It's
Bonjour.
it's so nice to have you on the What podcast. Thank you
Great to be
for
here.
yeah, well, I'm really excited for our audience to have a chance to get to know you a little bit more. You have a very accomplished and career to speak of, and so it'll be interesting to see, the relationship to coaching. So I'll let you introduce yourself. Go ahead and tell our audience what you feel is most important, and then we'll get started.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be able to have a chat with you this morning. And what I can say about myself is I am currently retired. Actually, I'm coming up on 2 years being retired and loving it. Prior to that, I worked in the financial services industry for over 25 years. And prior to that, I had a little bit of fun where I worked in the sailing industry for 10 years. And most of my career has been in sales management, business development. And my last role was with RBC Financial Services, where I was leading a large team of professionals to provide estate planning advice to Canadians.
Yes,
So the last 2 years has been very fulfilling. Really enjoyed the journey. Yes,
that's
that's been good.
wonderful. Yeah, well, I have so many questions. So, I mean, and it's good because I'm a coach, so
Yes,
it's good for me to have questions. My first
ask
one,
away.
though, well, so I read a really great article from the Globe and Mail. It was published, I think, in 2024, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Um, and you said in that article you wanted to pursue something called Merci la vie. What, can
yes.
you say a little bit more about that?
I'm happy to. So, Merci la Vie is what I call a passion project that started actually about a year ago. But it all started with a trip that I took with my husband to New England. So, going down the coast of Maine and Massachusetts. And I've been a sailor all my life since I was actually 8 years old. And I'm still a sailor, spending a lot of time now on our boat now that I'm retired.
Hmm.
And I went into the store and they were selling bags that are made out of recycled sails.
Mm.
And when I saw that, I really had an epiphany. I said, this is me. This represents me so much because being a sailor and loving to sew, which I hadn't done for ages, I thought it was combining my need to be creative, to be able to produce something, recycling. It was combining so many good things in one that I said, this is for me. So I've been doing this for fun for the last year, and Merci la vie is really all about being grateful and thankful for life. And I think it translates that very well.
It's such a nice project. And when in the article you mentioned how important it is to plan for retirement. So can you tell me a little bit more about like what was that decision like? It was at May, I think May 2023?
Yes, exactly. And actually, that was really interesting because I made the decision to retire a year prior to that. So May 2022, having a chat with my husband who was already retired, and came to the conclusion that there were a lot of things on our list that we wanted to do that required a lot of time, more than the 4 or 5 weeks holidays that you might have. So I decided that I was going to retire a year later. I needed a year to get my mind around the fact that I wouldn't be working anymore because I did love what I was doing.
Mm.
I loved the people I was working. I felt that I was on top of I was really doing well. So it was a big decision. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought that it was the best time to leave is actually when things are doing great.
Hmm.
Before you get tired or you don't enjoy your role anymore, or before people start saying things saying, well, I wish you would retire. So, leaving on a high, I think is the best way to leave a place, a job, whatever. So
Hmm.
I gave myself a year, and it was a great process that I went through over the 12 months preceding my formal retirement. And I think it was probably the best thing I could have done during that time because it gave me a chance to really let go.
Mm.
And I actually seek the help, not the help, the support of someone, because I feel that transitioning is so important. Having a position, positive transition into something, I think really sets you well for the next stage. And interestingly enough, I was not able to find someone that I could connect with, that I
Oh,
felt would be able to provide me with that support. And that's where the idea of wanting to become a coach kind of started in my
mm.
head. And one thing that I thought I would mention about the transition is that 2 weeks prior to my formal retirement, I went on a long walk. I did the Camino de Santiago,
Oh, wow.
and I walked with actually a very good friend of mine for 2 weeks from Porto in Portugal all the way to Santiago de Compostela.
Oh my goodness.
And that was, I think, the best thing I could have done just to finish
Mhm.
off with work where it felt like every step I was taking, it's a metaphor, but I
Yeah.
was letting go. I was just letting go and just shedding the weight. Not that it was a burden, but I was shedding my life, my
Mhm.
career. And I felt that when I arrived and I was ready for the next step. So it was a
Oh,
great
wow.
experience.
That's a beautiful
Yeah.
metaphor. When you think about, how much work is a part of our identity,
Yes.
as we move through our careers, and then to having to rediscover ourselves, I think, in retirement. Like, who am I now? And I love that question because I think coaching is all about the discovery of who you are. Who am I now? Is this really sort of underlying theme of coaching, right? When we talk to people about their wants, their desires, what's most important to them, their values, and their ambiguity and challenges and stress. It's all about, who do I want to be? So,
Yes.
what do you hope to? Um, well, I guess, what do you mentioned? This is one of the reasons why you came to coaching. So, what do you hope to create as a coach?
So, what's been really interesting is my journey over the last 2 years. Actually, it's been really positive. I'm really feeling fulfilled. I'm very active, keeping engaged. Honestly, it's great. But the
Mhm.
one thing that I noticed is a lot of people are not doing so well in retirement. Some people, and I don't want to generalize, but some people who've been very involved in their career, who managed, large teams, who really, their life was their work, is once they retire, it's hard because they didn't plan for it and they struggle. And it's been interesting because I've been talking to a lot of people who are either about to retire, who are recently retired, and I noticed that there was a need. There was definitely a big void there. And I because my experience has been so positive, and I do love the interaction with people. But I said, well, why couldn't I help these people through the
Mhm.
transition?
Mhm.
Why couldn't I become a retirement coach? Because I think I can speak from experience, having had a busy career and now having been retired for 2 years, I think I can help people and I want to help people through that. For me, it was really important that if I was gonna be a coach, that I become accredited, that I go through a proper process, because I think there's a lot of people right now who are calling themselves coach. I think coaching is living a moment right now. But for me, it was really important that I go through the process of becoming a coach before I can start in that next passion project I'm gonna have.
Mhm. Well, yeah, for sure. There's a lot of unqualified coaching, in the sense that people are not becoming trained in the strategies and
Mhm.
techniques. So I think it's, certainly a good way to differentiate yourself.
Yes. And there's so much to learn. Honestly, I learned so much over the last 21 weeks that to think that I could have pretended that I was a coach before taking the course is no,
Right.
there's no way.
Well, I'm happy to hear you say that. I really have to say it, because a part of, a big part of who I am is about educating people on the difference between a professional coach and somebody who just calls themselves a coach. And there is a lot of strategy, a lot of technique, and a lot of awareness to create. I also think it's a privileged position that a coach holds, that we have a responsibility to do no harm. And
Hmm.
unless we're trained and we understand the difference between coaching and therapy and mentoring and advising, then we have the potential to do harm. So I really appreciate you saying that. And what I wonder is, well, and just to say, you were in the leadership program, right? That's just ending
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
Um, and what do you think, looking back on your career as a leader in the financial world, which is, probably a very fast moving and intense environment at times, what do you think a coach approach would bring to that role?
It's interesting because when I was taking the course, all I kept on thinking was, I wish I would have taken this course while I was working.
Mm,
And I really think that a lot of leaders could benefit from taking a coaching course.
mhm,
Because the world I was in, a lot of my work was problem solving. By the time things got to me, there was obviously the strategy work, there was planning, there was the budgeting, all of that aspect, a lot of people management. But often things would get to my desk when it was an issue, and there was a lot of giving advice. There's a
mm,
lot of solving, and I think at times that for sure taking the coaching approach would have helped, would have potentially gotten better results or better answers. So it's something that I think should be definitely more integrated into leadership.
mm.
That's one of my takeaway.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been developing this team and group coaching program for the last year as part of my capstone with my master's, and I have seen the research in how people are more engaged, bring more value, feel more connected, and to the organizational goals as well as their role every day, and the opportunity to use a coach approach in conflict management and creating that cohesive system that teams are in organizations. So yeah, it's a really interesting space to be in, and it is very trending at this moment. But I want to circle back to something you said around this need for coaching in retirement. It's interesting because also I've read in studies and research that people who, and actually it was part of the grief program that I took as part of my studies, and many people suffer from grief in retirement. This, I think they call it the disenfranchised grief, which
Mm-hmm.
is this losing something or a part of yourself, a part of your identity. And the studies show that a lot of people become sick, they even die once they retire, and they have these plans to do all these things, but in fact their health doesn't support it, or they go back to work because they don't know what to do
Mm-hmm.
with themselves. So it is a very interesting market. I think it's needs a lot of attention because so many people are retiring now, right? The baby boomers
Mm-hmm.
are
Yes.
leaving their work in huge numbers. So yeah, I'm really like happy that you're focused on that market. And what do you imagine your practice will look like? Like, who's the person that you want to coach?
So ideally, um, I want to coach someone who's done some financial planning first. Because although I work in financial services, I believe that financial planning is crucial. It's not everything that you need to do about before you retire, but it's a very important component. And I'm
Mhm.
not there to help people with financial advice. That is not what I'm doing. So I want to know that people have already done a little bit of planning, and I want to also see people, if they're in a couple, I want to see the the couple together. I
Oh,
don't
nice.
I don't want to speak just to the one spouse, because I think it's something that you need to do together.
Mm,
Because often what I've realized is that someone's idea of retirement might be very different from their spouse, and at
yeah.
times that's where the some of the issues arise. I'm sure you've heard about gray divorce, where a lot of people now are in retirement,
I've
just
never
looking
heard
at each other and say, not so sure that, or,
right.
we're at the same place anymore. And I'm not there to solve any of those issues, but I think it's about having a dialogue as to what is your vision.
Mm,
So ideally, what I'd like to do is bring either someone if they're on their own, but if there's a couple, I make sure that both people are at the table, and then start early, a little bit like I did because I think it served me so well. Is ideally 6 months to a year prior to the retirement to start having the conversation and talk about, okay, where's your head at? What are some of the things, because we all have a bucket list, what are some of the things that you want to do? But it's not just about the bucket list, it's about also every day. What is my vision? What do I want to do? How do I want to fill my days? Because the reality is that they're long days. When you stop, that 8.5, 9 hour, 10 hour work day, you need to fill the time and you need to have a purpose. And you need to think about what's important, what's important in my life. Um, so those conversations, I think, need time. They need introspection. So you want to make sure that you have enough time so that you can meet with, uh, your clients, have the conversation, and let things simmer for a month or two, and then reconnect with them again. And it's really a journey that you're taking through. I take them through, and then once they retire, they're ready. They don't
mm,
waste because you often hear that people will maybe I don't know if the word waste is the right word, but we'll spend a year or two. It can be that much just trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do. And next thing you know, those 2 years are gone and you can't get them back, right? So it's really being able to make the best of it the day that you turn the page.
right. That's a really good strategy to start before the retirement happens, like what you explained your
Yeah.
journey, right? As the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, That's, yeah, it's so important. I'm thinking about my parents actually right now, and they did a slow transition. Like that's what worked actually, and over time. And I'm thinking about myself too right now. Like a big part of the opportunity in a digital world is that I can work from anywhere, and I
Mm-hmm.
can also manage my time as a self-employed person or an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So those are really, I know those are two key aspects of why a lot of people come to coaching, which is this ability to do it from anywhere and to
Yeah.
be, mobile and versatile and flexible with, your schedule and your practice. So do you imagine coaching from a sailboat is part of your
100%. 100%.
yeah.
Because, as much as I want to coach, it's going to be one component of my life. My Merci la Vie is one. The sailing, we are quite active. So I can do it from anywhere, and that's the
Mm,
beauty. I'm hoping to be busy. Maybe a day or two a week. That's what I'd
yes.
like to do. That's really what I would like to do. Yeah.
You also mentioned in the article that I read, you mentioned volunteering for nonprofit. What's important about that for you?
Well, giving back for me is crucial. I've been on boards before while I was working, and I want to be able to help. I want to give back, and I always say that I'm now in my giving back years. I feel very fortunate. So it's about helping in a formal or an informal volunteering way. So I'm having some conversation right now with one organization in particular, and it can be as small as going to a library and reading to children, to sitting on a board, but volunteering has to be part of it. And actually, my coaching practice will have a volunteering aspect to it.
Hmm. Oh,
Um,
that's very generous.
and I don't know if you want me to expand on it, and I'm happy to share. I think it's a little bit of a unique model, and I think that I really think that it can work. So if you're okay, I can explain
Of
it.
course, go ahead. Yeah.
So I want to pay it forward. So what I want to do is do the coaching to people who are about to retire, and charge a fee. And I think that as much as I need to become more comfortable with charging a professional fee, it's something that I feel for the coaching professionals I need to do it because I believe I will bring value.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to do then on the next phase is being able to take part of the fee that I'm being paid and provide coaching to a recent graduate from university
Mm-hmm.
and offer it to them for free because often they don't have any money, as we know, but they could certainly use a little bit of coaching because what I've seen in my career, because I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of people, a lot of candidates for roles,
Right.
I've seen so many people come not well prepared to interviews that I think I could probably help some of those people. So on one side, I want to be able to help people who are about to retire and then be able to then volunteer in helping people who are about to enter the workforce and let the people who are about to retire, let them know that part of their fee will be to help some people who are about to enter the workplace and knowing that they're getting some help in their own retirement process, but knowing they'll be able to help pay it forward and help someone else. That's a way of for me to be able to volunteer some of my time.
No, that's such a great model. It's it's the real transfer of knowledge. It's sponsorship,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Which is such a great, yeah. I once, I mean, I have a lot of projects that I get really passionate about, and one of them was I actually piloted some programs in an elementary school for grades 5 and 6. It was called I Am Confident, and
Oh,
it was
great.
coach approaches for kids to learn how to, appreciation, acknowledgments. What's the difference between validation and recognition? And, trying to teach them some of the coaching strategies for themselves. And it
Yeah,
was fantastic. The pilot gives me shivers thinking about it. It was so, so good. But my idea was to have corporate, like companies, whether it's banks or
yeah,
big companies, sponsor the leaders of tomorrow. So the companies would sponsor the programs to help, nurture and develop the young people who will be leading those companies one day. So it's kind of like what
exactly.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Very, very similar. Yes.
Mm.
I think it's great. It's about, as I said, paying it forward where you want to
Yeah.
help. So,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's community, right? I mean, I,
Of course.
I'm a big, huge believer in community
Hmm.
to get better, to grow with other people that are like-minded, to protect our mindset and also our confidence when we're pursuing things. Having a community around us is such a blessing and a big part of how we challenge each other and stay connected to our values and our mission and what we believe. So I think that model is all about community, right? It's
Yeah.
that, yeah. And yeah. So I'm curious now, going back to your leadership role, because I think it's such a great opportunity for you to be a guest on this podcast. For the people listening, there's so many people who come through our programs who want to help organizations and leaders in organizations through coaching. So, what do you think modern leadership looks like right now?
Interesting. I think that uh, it's about really, it's talent management. A lot of it is about talent management. It's about EQ. Obviously, you need to have the expertise in the field that you work in. That's a given. I mean, if you're going to be an engineer, you need to be an engineer. But I think the issue that we see is some people have the expertise in their field, and because they excel in those roles, they become leaders, right? It's a little bit of the Peters principle, right? You get promoted, and all of a sudden you're a leader, but no one tells you how to be a leader.
Yeah.
And often companies could do a better role, could do a better job at training those people to become new leaders. So there's a lot, I think, of mistakes that happen along the way, or a lot of self-teaching. where you kind of have to feel your way and figure it out, as you go along. And I think a lot of the great leaders have a high EQ, emotional quotient, where it's the ability to relate, to inspire, the ability to motivate, and to listen, right? Because that's one thing that I also, I think I've done intuitively during my career, but coaching really formalized. It's the fact that often people have the answers within themselves. And if we do a little bit less telling, a little bit more listening, maybe we'll get to a better place. So I would suggest that a good leadership is this fine balance, because there will be times where you do have to give advice. You have to say, this is where we're going, this is the direction we need to take. But along the way, I think you get to a better place if there's input, and if um, people have an opportunity to share how they feel and how they view things, so that you get to a better outcome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've seen that a lot. The expert who doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
have the skills, the people skills, right? And yeah, what you're saying about emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, there's also the social emotional quotient, right? This understanding of how people and systems work, and this, so the awareness that we create in our own emotional landscape helps us become better at recognizing others' emotional
Yeah.
landscape. And
Hmm.
that's not something that people learn intuitively necessarily. Some people do. There's always an exception, but what I've seen is most people need some guidance and some strategies and some, skills in that area. And what we do is, you know, put people, well, leaders in positions that are subject matter experts, but can't bring people and engage them, bring them together and engage them.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that people leave leaders, not necessarily organizations. Right. Because the person that you are responding to, that you are closest to, is the one that has the most impact on you, how you feel, what you contribute, your experience of work. So, what do you think the biggest challenge of leadership is then today?
I think it's time. I think
Mm.
it's because it takes time to listen. It takes time to coach. And often what it is you're dealing with issues all day long. And there's not a lot of time to stop, to ask questions, to reflect, and to say, is this really the right approach, the right way of going about things? Is this really, am I listening to this person? And I think right now, with the remote work that a lot of people are dealing with, we're losing touch with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge challenge right now for leaders, is how to be able to bring people back, whether it's online or physically, but reconnect with people. And I think the people aspect is just becoming more and more difficult. And it's a challenge for leaders. It is such a challenge because I think a lot of them are feeling out of touch with some of the people who are on their team, because they just don't have that same rapport that they used to have.
Well, I mean, I can see it with the teens, young people who are always on
Yes.
their devices, especially since COVID. We're going to have a re-socialization effort of,
Hmm.
these remote work environments multiplied by these young generations coming up who, have a device attached to them at all times,
Yeah.
which now I think we all do.
Yeah.
But we
And
have to
I
be,
don't blame them, the young one, because
no,
the people who went through university during COVID, uh, it was a survival tool to be able to be online, to be on your phone, because you could see people. So that even aggravated the issue that we have with the reliance on devices. Um, so now they're entering the workforce, and because of COVID, they were studying remotely, doing everything remotely, and now we're telling them, now you got to go back to the office. So it's putting a lot of anxiety on those young workers who are entering the workforce right now, and I think it's going to be a challenge for sure. We need to help them, and I think it's going to take a commitment to re-engage and show the importance of having that face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I am a strong believer that AI will never replace coaching,
Yeah,
because
right.
the human skill we will always need, as long as there's humans on this earth, we will always need better strategies for communication. And I believe coaching is that, the language of influence, or the language of inclusion, or the language of connection, right?
I agree.
Because it's that, curiosity led conversation that helps people feel seen and heard. So, what's your opinion on, if you have one, I don't know, but on AI and, this world that we're moving into?
Yes, yes. It's interesting because I do use AI quite a bit.
Hmm.
Whenever I have questions that I need to quick answer, or I even ask AI to help me with developing a business plan for my coaching business and different marketing strategies. So what I think of AI is I think it's a great place to gather information quickly.
Hmm.
And that we shouldn't believe everything it says because it does make an awful lot of mistakes. And then
Yeah.
from there, it's the importance of then forming your own opinion and taking it and then taking it to the next level, right? I believe the social interaction. I mean, financial services is all about social interaction and the importance of having someone give you an advice, and it's not a robot that tells you, because the robot will not know everything about you, will not be able to read your body language, the hesitation. It's the human interaction is so important. I think that AI is a great tool. It's what it is. In my mind, it's a tool. Just like you have a toolbox with all kind of different tools, it's just one of them. And it can serve you very well, but um, it doesn't replace us. That's
Yeah, I
where
totally
at
agree.
this moment where AI is, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a great tool for coaches.
Yep.
It can be a great tool for coaching clients to
Hmm.
support brainstorming. But like you said, we have to understand that this is an aggregate of information out there on the web that isn't always correct, or the sources are not always, you know, uh, credible. And it also includes bias that exists online and in the writing of people. And so there's this inherent bias in AI that we have to be very careful of. And I know with my research, I would use it to just start my research, what articles to focus on, where to look at, who are the most cited, sort of what's the most cited research in certain topics. And three on, well, let's say one in five would have been a citation that didn't exist. It just made something up. And it makes it up because it pulls different information and just makes an inference that isn't
Hmm.
actually. So
Yeah.
we really do need to be verifying and thinking for ourselves, like you said, formulating an opinion
Yes.
and looking beyond what AI is offering, because it really can mislead people. And
Well,
actually, there's some research. Yeah,
no,
go
so
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Well, and
No,
I
I was just
think
gonna,
we have so much to say. What I will say is that the danger with AI sometimes, and I'm not an expert, but just from my own experience, is that it can create almost an intellectual laziness, where
hmm.
instead of spending the time to think about a solution, you'll go to AI and say, "Oh, tell me this, give me that," and so instead of going through the thought process, and I think we really have to be careful with that because it's so easy to get the answer. Why think?
I mean, I don't know. Do you remember encyclopedias? I used to go through the microfiche at the library and the catalog cards. Like nobody does that anymore.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
yes.
This is the next generation, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, but Google, yeah, Google was the first sort of instant, my friends, the kids used to call it the Google when they were
The
growing
Google.
up, like the Google, like the God, the Google. Um, and AI has become that now too. But although, I think we have to embrace technology because if we
Of course.
deny it, then we get left behind. But I do know like a lot of people are finding our program now through AI, which is interesting.
All right.
It's certainly going to impact the advertising world out there because a lot of the research, like whatever's online about, whatever information, people are actually going to AI to tell me who the best school is in Canada or US or whatever, and then they're finding us through this
Oh,
interesting new way.
interesting.
But yeah. Yeah. So then I want to go to a quote um, that you mentioned in this article. So you said so back to financial planning. Financial planning is important, but I believe people should also plan what they will do in retirement. Can you tie that into, because you also mentioned about courses, hobbies, things that you can do. So what has that been like? I know you talked about being very active, and I'm wondering about the maybe it's keeping your mind active. What can you say about that in retirement? I think that there's a big piece there.
Yeah, because I spend a little bit of time thinking about this whole approach, is to me, I see it as there's three different components for me that are really important. I would say in life in general, but definitely in retirement. And there's the what I call the intellectual bucket, the physical, and the emotional one, or
Mm,
spiritual. And what I try to do actively is every day, and it's never perfect, but to fill those three buckets. But it can't, because it can't all be about, okay, I'm going to get fit, or I'm going to exercise, or it can't all be also about just the, sitting down and reading all day. You need to have that balance. So I'm trying to do that a little bit every day. And I'm someone who's very curious. Um, I love learning, and I know also how important it is for my mind to stay young, my brain to stay young, is to learn new things.
mm,
Because if you continue to do what you're comfortable doing, you've always done, you're not creating new connection in your brain. I've read a little bit about this, and it's important. So at one point, I was even thinking, okay, maybe I should take a mechanics course. I have no interest, but just to learn,
yeah.
just to learn something different. So I took a course when I retired. I said, okay, I'm going to requalify as a lifeguard, and I think that's in the article, because I said,
Yes.
okay,
Oh, yes.
kind of pushing the boundaries and just forcing me to do something physical and learning, reskilling. And then for the intellectual was really the coaching course.
Mm.
And I have to tell you that you were in competition with MBA and MBA. So my choice was, am I going to take an MBA or am I going to take a coaching
Oh,
course? And I
wow.
know they're totally different. And the reason is because I always, I always regretted not doing my MBA when I was younger. And then life got busy, children, work. I never got around to do it. And I said, maybe when I retire, now's the time. So I was having the conversation with my husband, and he told me, he said, you've got your MBA. You did it while working, like just through experience. Still not the same thing. But then to me, it was like, what am I going to do with an MBA? Because really, if I want to help others, it's great. I'll have the diploma, but I don't want to go back to work. So, and then the coaching, that's where I realized that coaching was going to provide me the learning, and then the ability to help others all in one. So that's how I decided to take the coaching course. So I don't know if it answers your question, but that's for me, it was part of the ongoing learning,
Yeah.
because
Well, I
that's what
love
I
the way
want to
that you
do.
put. Yeah, I really appreciate the way that you identified those three areas of life that we want to, develop and pay attention to.
Mm,
You're making me think of this wonderful lady in our community who's 85, and she joined the coaching program when she was 84. She
Wow.
did the life and wellness program, and now she's doing the advanced. And she is focused on ageism and supporting
Oh.
people who are facing ageism. And
Hmm.
it's just such a beautiful endeavor and mission for her. And she's an incredible person. Like, I mean, to be still pursuing education at that time in her life. And her doctor actually said to her, um, she was telling me this conversation before, but she said her doctor said to her, "Why do you keep doing this? You're going to die soon. Why do you keep doing these things?" And then he says to her, "It's not as if you're going to go and dance tomorrow night." And she said, "Well, actually, I was dancing the next night. She was actually going to a dance class."
She needs a new doctor,
So
I think.
yeah, that's what I said to her. I said, "Can I help you like navigate that situation?" But the point I think she was trying to make is that like it's subtle and she says it's everywhere. Like that, and
Hmm.
so that's another interesting niche, and maybe that will come up in your niche of retirees who are facing perhaps some part of that. But yeah, I believe that when we keep our minds active and engaged, that possibilities are limitless, and that's the gift of that learning. And look at you, like now you're going to pay that forward. So it's that about continuity as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So if you had one wish for the world, what would it be?
Let's stop fighting. Can't we get along? Can we just get along?
Yeah.
Life is short. Let's help each other.
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. I agree. If coaching can help, I'm I'm all for it.
One person at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're coming to the end of our call today, and I really appreciate the time you took to be here. I am curious if there's anything that you would tell, somebody in your position making that decision to retire. What would be the one thing you would want them to know about retirement or about this transition?
I would say it's a great next stage of your life. It's something that should be embraced.
Mm.
And just like anything in life, while you were working, it requires planning. Things don't just happen. And little planning can go a long way to ensure that, you know, the, the next chapter is a positive one, a rewarding one, and you feel fulfilled. That's what I would say.
You know, I used to work in the financial services sector. I was in mutual funds
Oh, oh yeah.
as my first job out of McGill. And I was there actually, though, for over 10 years. But I remember the slogan was, "Don't spend your golden years working at the Golden Arches." The McDonald's, because it was all about financial planning,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That's
that
funny.
made me think, because, the world that you come from, I wonder, planning is a big theme. So what do people, young people need to pay attention to? I think many of us have read The Wealthy Barber, put 10% aside for yourself. Like is there any kind of words of wisdom that you can share for maybe the younger generation?
Oh, I think things have changed so much for them. They're dealing with issues that we didn't have
Mm.
before. I think they're different, and some of them have been amplified. But I think it goes back to planning. Honestly, I think a little having a plan goes a long way. Whatever that plan is,
Mhm.
what it you know, because otherwise, next thing you'll know, you'll be 20 years later, and you'll say, "Oh, what happened? I'm not where I'm supposed to be." Right? I haven't maybe saved what I wanted to save. I haven't done what I want. So whether it's financial or not, it really comes down to a little planning, just a little planning, a little forward looking, um, because it allows you to have direction, knowing that plans will change along the way. But then you update your plan. And not everything, I mean, I still very much believe in improvisation and doing things in the spirit of the moment. I think that's great, and we don't want to stop that. But as a foundation, a little plan helps. All aspects
Mm-hmm,
of life, I would say.
mm-hmm,
You don't run a
mm-hmm.
marathon without having a training program and planning. You know, you don't buy a house without having a plan to save and get your down payment. Like, so
Yeah.
it's the basic, but I think it's very important.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, considering there's a huge part of the population that doesn't plan, set goals, and people in retirement, it's not like an obvious choice to start making a plan for like in retirement because people are like, oh, I'm done with planning now. I'm just
Right,
retired.
right.
So it's an intentional choice that you have to make to have that plan. So yeah, interesting. Well,
Well, and
thank
then
you
what
again
I
for
would,
your time. Go
yes,
ahead.
of
Go ahead.
course. No, well, what I was going to say, and it's okay not to follow the plan. The way I look at it is
Yeah.
that if you have a plan and think better things come along, and there's other things, but at least you know that you have a plan to fall back on. There is something.
Well, I think through planning, what you find is when you start to move towards something intentionally, that is the best opportunity to know if it is the right thing for you or not. But until you make an intention to do that, you don't know because it's still this very questionable thing in your mind. But I think that once you start to move toward it and you start to feel the impact and experience it, then you can decide, oh, you know what? That's not for me. I think this is for me. And so you have more information to make a new choice with. And that's the power of planning, right?
Yeah,
Whether you follow it or not is not the point. I think it's just what do you learn and what do you gain as you go. But at least you're moving toward a target, right?
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been so fun. I really feel privileged to have this time with you. So I hope
Well,
you're
so do
near a
I.
sailboat right now and
Soon,
you're
in a
about to
few
get back
weeks.
on.
In a
Okay,
few
okay,
weeks.
good, good.
Yes, yes. And I have
Okay.
to say that it's been a pleasure um,
Mhm.
taking the course, the coaching course through your organization. Only have amazing things to say about it. Highly professional. Kelly Wood was amazing as a facilitator. So I want to thank you for that. I think you've built a great business. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. And yeah, it's all credit to the team and to this community, really. It's just, I feel very lucky.
Well done.
So yeah, thank you so much. And people want to reach you. If they want to reach you, you'll give us your contact, but do you want to just mention, is there a business name? Is there a website that you want to mention?
So I don't have a retirement website yet set up for my coaching, but for my little passion project, it's mercilavie.shop.com. If you
Oh,
want to have a
great.
look at
Okay.
this, what I'm those
Yeah.
little bags I've been building, and my retirement business, coaching business will be launched in the fall.
Beautiful. Okay. And you must be on LinkedIn if people want to connect?
Yes, Helene Michaud.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Perfect. So we'll put
Thank you
your
so
LinkedIn.
much.
Yeah. Thank
Great.
you.
All right. Have a good day.